Hello everyone. In this lesson we'll be learning about modernism in American literature, a literary movement which spans from 1914 to 1945, the years between the two world wars. We'll be going over the most distinctive features of the movement and its main representatives. These decades between the wars was a period of great change in American history: the First World War, the movement from the countryside to the cities, the Wall Street crash, technological advances, and so forth. And with all of these social and economic changes, especially the devastation caused by the war, left an aftermath of shock, disillusionment, and a sense that something needed to change in literature as well. The writer Ezra Pound's magazine, Make It New, perfectly describes the need that writers had of breaking away from tradition. It was a conscious desire to overturn traditional modes of representation. There was also a mistrust of institutions of power and their beliefs and values, like religion, politics, society, government, and a rejection of absolute truths. These writers therefore were called the Lost Generation, and many of them even left the US to find their identity and voice abroad. This inevitably led to experimentation in literary forms. One of the ways in which writers experimented was through the use of stream of consciousness. This technique was greatly used by Virginia Woolf in the UK and William Faulkner in the US, and was heavily influenced by the growth of psychology and psychoanalysis, which emphasizes the importance of the inner self. With the use of this technique, writers were trying to recreate the natural flow of a character's thoughts. In stream of consciousness novels, characters' inner self and thoughts are more important than action. Because thoughts are to a certain extent random and chaotic, narration in these works is not linear. There is no chronological order in the plots. There are flashbacks, flash-forwards, fragmentation. Another type of experimentation in prose was the introduction of the notion of the unreliable narrator. First-person narrators whose credibility has been for some reason compromised. We cannot trust their accounts, their stories. By making use of this new type of narrators, writers were even questioning their own authority as reliable interpreters of reality and mainstream cultural ideas. It shows once again that appearances can be deceiving and there is no one truth we can rely on. In the case of poetry, poets made use of everyday language. Their poetry was usually unrhymed and to the point, not pompous as before. It became minimalist, and because of this and the belief that literature should challenge and unsettle readers, poetry became demanding, obscure, more abstract. Poets of the Imagist movement created by Pound in 1912 were characterized by precision of imagery, brevity, and free verse. Some of the most representative writers of the period were, for example, Ernest Hemingway, whose minimalist, sparse style was much influenced by his journalistic career. He believed that by omitting superfluous and extraneous matter, writing becomes more interesting. Thus he developed his iceberg theory, a theory of omission. Just as only a small part of an iceberg, the tip, is visible above water, Hemingway stories show only a small part of what is actually happening. According to Hemingway, the true meaning of a piece of writing should not be evident from the surface story, but it should be hidden below the surface and allowed to shine through. Another famous modernist writer is Francis Scott Key Fitzgerald, who was famous for his depictions of the Roaring Twenties, his most brilliant novel being The Great Gatsby. As opposed to Hemingway's style, Fitzgerald's is more dense and intricate. By making use of dialogue, details, and variations in sentence structure, he helps the reader become more integrated with the story. In many of his works, he explores the themes of wealth, alcoholism, excess, highlighting the inconsistencies of the American dream. Another celebrated author of his age was William Faulkner. He was mostly known for his experimental style, with meticulous attention to cadence and diction, and his frequent use of stream of consciousness. His writing is highly emotional, complex, cerebral, and in 1949 he was awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature for his powerful and artistically unique contribution to the modern American novel. A female writer who also contributed a great deal to American and world literature was Gertrude Stein. She was very interested in paintings and attempted to parallel the theories of Cubism in her works, specifically in her use of varied repetitions, simplification, fragmentation, and her focus on the illumination of the present moment. Therefore, she used the present progressive tense. So you will read more in-depth analysis of these and other modernist writers' work in the chapter on Modernism from An Outline of American Literature by Catherine Van Spankeren. So thank you for listening. I hope you enjoy your reading and it inspires you to read and investigate even more on the subject.